Our battle is the longest running water battle with Nestle anywhere. Nestle came in the back door 2 years before the residents of Michigan heard of Nestle's plans to extract 400 gallons per minute from a stream located on a private hunting preserve. This means then that MCWC was already 2 years behind when we started our court battles. It has been nearly 9 years since the people of Mecosta County were made aware of Nestle's plan to pump 400 gallons per minute of spring water from Mecosta, Michigan. At the meeting, Nestle told the citizens it would not come into a community where it wasn't wanted. The building of the Nestle plant began in May 2002, and Nestle continued to pump at an average rate of 160 to 170 gallons per minute during the trial. The trial of MCWC versus Nestle began in May of 2003. Nestle continued pumping at the average rate of 160 to 170 gallons per minute during the trial. The drop in the dead stream, which you can see here, and I'll turn the light off so you can see it a little better. This is before, here on your left. This is before Nestle started pumping. That was in 2002. Nestle started pumping, and after Nestle started pumping in the fall of 2002, you can see the mud flats where the green is. That was all water before. That's what happened when Nestle came. Can you go down to the next one? That was, the next slide is a 2005. That's what our plaintiffs are looking at. After 19 days of testimony spanning 3 months, I was there for every day, and it dragged on for a long time. The judge ruled in favor of MCWC, and in his opinion, the extraction of water at any rate was an unreasonable use of groundwater. The removal would divert and diminish the flow of the streams by at least 27%, and the level of the stream and 2 lakes would be lowered 4 to 6 inches. The judge ordered the termination of all water withdrawals within 21 days from the date of his opinion, which means Nestle was shut down. In 3 days' time, Nestle appealed to the Michigan Court of Appeals, and with the help of amicus briefs from the Department of Environmental Quality and other state agencies, the Court of Appeals granted Nestle a stay and allowed it to continue pumping up to 250 gallons per minute during the appeal. Well, that then led us back to MCWC versus Nestle. We went to the Court of Appeals, and then from there we went to the Michigan Supreme Court. But all 3 Michigan courts of law, which I just mentioned, upheld the evidence of adverse environmental impact in the MCWC versus Nestle case. Nestle's mining and pumping in Mecosta reduced the flows and levels of 1 stream, 3 wetlands, and 2 lakes. It's next to impossible, if not impossible, to redo and get back to where you were. Nestle is not a person. Nestle is a company, a foreign private company that is extracting water for its own profit. And that's exactly what Nestle did in Michigan. And we're never, the harm that has occurred in Michigan, even though, you know, we've cut Nestle down almost 50%, we're never going to get back what we've lost. And it's sad.
You want to vote no. If we vote no, what's going to happen? Is Nestle going to go away? Is Poland Springs going to stop pumping? Does anyone know that? If all of a sudden this ordinance gets voted down, what's happening?
A moratorium.
A moratorium.
For how long?
180 days.
180 days?
Yes? No, water extraction is not a permitted use in this town. Period.
It's permitted use in the state of Maine.
Wait a minute, this is the problem with this whole thing, okay? And this happened, I've been emailing back and forth with Andy Fisk at the DEP. I got letters back from him on Tuesday. The problem is the ORC, the planning board, and the board of selectmen took a 3-year-old ordinance that didn't have any of the new laws in it, and they started playing with it. They never asked questions. They brought Andy Fisk down, but they never asked him the really important question, and that was, what would happen if if Nestle went to the state for a permit, and they went to the town for a site permit with our current ordinance, which they would have to do, because to put in wells, to put in a pump building, to put in access roads, anything else, they need a site permit.
The town doesn't issue the permit, it doesn't matter if the state gives them one. They still can't pump because the town
So
hasn't
the only
issued
thing is
them.
then is Nestle would have to take us to court.
We don't need this
I would
ordinance.
rather have them take us to court than end up in $1 million problem. So our current ordinance is really strong enough, but nobody in the town, as far as officials go, or the boards, actually realize that, and some of them still don't realize it today.
There is not a regulatory board in the state of Maine that regulates our water that Nestle and Poland Springs does not sit on. They are there.
My name is Nick. I live in the Branch Brook watershed. I drink the water. I have a question on this advertisement for you, Terry. This ad comes out, if you're in York County, you can read this ad 6 times a week in various newspapers. And I hear you people you're talking about protecting the environment. I've heard people out here talking about protecting the water. Maybe do you suppose it's possible that Nestle learned something from you in Michigan? Maybe they've changed their tack, and maybe they've really come here to protect us, because this ad says they're coming to protect our environment. That's all it mentions is protection. Maybe they've been sent here by God to protect us.
I live in Hollis, about 2 miles from the Poland Springs bottling company. When they moved in May of 2000, I had lived there since I was a teenager. In '93, and in 2000 our well had never gone dry. The following spring there was a drought, and our well went dry for the first time, and they said it was completely unrelated, even though they're only about 2 miles from where we live, 2 miles from our well. Last year they took out 186 million gallons of water from Hollis. When we had no water, they said we could hire an independent geologist and they would pay for it. And we could sit there with no water while the geologist came out and decided if it was related or not. Instead of doing that, the trailer park owner decided to go ahead and put the well in, and we ended up with a rent increase.
I live in Hollis, and I live off of 117, which is the road that was fixed when Poland Springs moved in. I live 4 miles from the plant. Friends of ours live on the road, and it shakes 24 hours a day. The truck traffic goes by. The 2.5 miles up that stretch, I'll pass 5 trucks on the average. But I would like to see half the energy that's put into this political argument that's going in this town to go into standing in front of Hannaford, or to stand in the aisles in Hannaford and say, don't buy this water. And when that source of income dries up, then Nestle goes away.
Well, you had asked me about Wisconsin, and I can tell you how Wisconsin was different than Michigan. Wisconsin had the governor, the DEQ, Trout Unlimited. They had a lot of their government bodies that were behind them. Michigan, Nestle started with our governor, and our governor said, open arms, oh, come in, come in. You know, we're even going to give you all of this tax incentives, you know, to come in. And they wined and dined from the governor clear down to the township. And that was the difference. But I spoke in Wisconsin not too many years ago. The audience was filled with Nestle people. Nestle is still there because Wisconsin has great water, just like Michigan, just like Spain. You can never take your eyes off from Nestle.